light. Shadows creep and crawl with every scream. Hear the echoes call. Synths and guitars in a haunting blend. An 80s vibe where the terror transcends. Shocktoberfest, scream until dawn. In your nightmares, the terror's reborn. Lights flash, monsters take flight. Embrace the darkness. It's a metal night.
Hey everybody, Wildman Wes here, and welcome back for day 16 of Shocktoberfest 80s Rewind. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living for a scare. I had to do something. Today starts the movie block of 1985, and I realized something while looking through horror movies from the 80s, especially with my list. We haven't done a Stephen King movie yet. Now, I have to clarify something. In my more recent series of Worst State of Movies, there were quite a few Stephen King movies. And most of them were from the 90s, so we are okay on that aspect with the 80s genre, but I've already reviewed quite a few 80s films that have been adapted from Stephen King's work, so I sit before you very limited. Today we're going to be talking about Silver Bullet. This was adapted from one of Stephen King's short stories called Cycle of the Werewolf. In this story/movie, we have two siblings. We have Janine and we also have Marty. Marty is wheelchair bound, and Janine is the older sister that feels like she has to take care of him all the time, and when things go wrong, even if Marty is involved with it or not, Janine gets blamed for it, and she feels a sort of resentment towards her brother with all of this. This is not a sibling rivalry film though, folks. No, it is a horror film. Let's stick with the horror. Even in the beginning of the movie, people are being taken out brutally by a random creature. And while people are getting taken out one by one, Janine and Marty's Uncle Red comes to visit and stay with them because he is on his, I believe, third divorce, and he is also being very, very cautious when saying things because YouTube's algorithm is cracking down on us, but we have to say it for what it is. Uncle Red is an alcoholic, and he has been dealing with this substance abuse issue for many years, and that is one of the main reasons why his character has been battling multiple divorces. However, even though Uncle Red has these issues, Marty has an attachment to him. Uncle Red is Marty's hero. Marty loves the fact that Uncle Red comes by and wants to help him out with his wheelchair, even to the point where he makes him an motor-powered wheelchair, a rocket wheelchair, so to speak. As these random attacks keep occurring, the town issues a 5 p.m. curfew, where no one's allowed to go outside. And unfortunately, during this time, there's a carnival that's supposed to happen in town, and that was one of Marty's big things, to go out and see the fireworks. However, Uncle Red wanted to help Marty out with that. Apart from making him that motor-powered wheelchair that I brought up earlier, he also brings fireworks for Marty to go out and shoot. And when he goes out to go fire off some fireworks, a werewolf appears and tries to attack Marty. However, Marty gets the upper hand by shooting one of his fireworks into the werewolf's eye. As Marty goes back to Janine and Uncle Red, they don't believe a word he's saying about seeing a werewolf. Uncle Red eventually is getting so stressed out that he leaves town for a little while, only to find out that Marty was telling the truth. And it turns out that this werewolf is none other than the preacher in town that is telling everybody to take care of themselves and also hold on to the word so the evil doesn't take you down, as well. And, I guess that's the definition of the word irony. Once Uncle Red realizes that Marty's telling the truth, Marty and Janine take off some of the jewelry that they have, such as necklaces and pendants that are pure silver, to turn into a silver bullet. Uncle Red gets the silver bullet, brings it back to the house, and on Halloween night, Marty and Janine's parents are leaving the country to go to Europe for a vacation for a little while. It's very random, but hey, it's alright. Let's just leave these kids home when people are savagely being ripped apart by a monster with our alcoholic brother. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, doesn't it, folks? And of course, like any other horror story, after a creature or a villain has been revealed or exposed to the main characters, we have the final battle. The werewolf shows up, and Uncle Red, Marty, and Janine take the werewolf out with the silver bullet. And they live to tell the tale. That's it. That is Silver Bullet in a nutshell. Now we're going to talk about what I like and what I don't like about this film. We're going to talk about what I don't like first. Now, there's not a lot that I don't like about it. One of the biggest issues I have was the ending. Now, in a lot of horror movies, or even just in any movie where there's a final battle, there's definitely a build-up and a build-up and a build-up where the battle goes on for roughly 5 to 10 minutes, where there's sometimes a cat and mouse chase scene, sometimes there is an epic battle of proportions of brutally beating each other within an inch of their lives. In this situation, the werewolf shows up, attacks Uncle Red briefly, and it gets taken out with a silver bullet. If my mind serves me right, time frame wise, the final battle lasted no more than about 2.5 minutes. And a minute of that was the silver bullet falling out of their weapon and having to retrieve it. So when I think about that, the ending was very, very lackluster and anticlimactic. It's difficult to really say whether I like this movie a lot or I'm just okay with it on the concept of this movie being adapted from one of Stephen King's short stories, with being Cycle of the Werewolf, because Stephen King has had many of his short stories adapted into film, whether it be especially from different seasons novella with Shawshank Redemption, Apt Pupil, Stand By Me, that was known as The Body. So with this, it's very difficult to really criticize everything about it because, as I mentioned, some of his short stories, really good. Some of his short stories, it's not much to write home about. And with Silver Bullet, I do appreciate what they did with the material, and I like the fact that it is simple. And the twist ending of the fact that the minister in town is the werewolf, we go back to that red herring thing, don't we, folks? We want to believe that it's not these people, or it's not a specific person of power and authority. And you do get the reveal probably within the last 20 minutes of the film that the minister is the werewolf because you happen to see him wearing an eye patch after Marty shoots the werewolf with a firework. And yeah, then there becomes that cat and mouse, or the tension of when is this character going to stalk and attack the main characters of the film. The cast did a fairly decent job with the portrayals of the characters. We have the late Corey Haim, we have Terry O'Quinn from the Stepfather series, we have Gary Busey, we have Everett McGill playing the preacher in this movie, who is well known for being in movies of the James Bond series, as well as being in Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs. And I do enjoy his very dry and very quiet tone, because a character like a preacher or a minister, and especially in horror films, we're expecting them to really be loud and boisterous and talking about the word and wanting to protect their flock from any form of evil. And in this situation, he's very stoic, and it's definitely a 180 that helps bring the mood into a dark place where you almost figure it out right away, but at the same time, you don't. And then when that big reveal happens, you want to say, I knew it! I knew that he was the werewolf. But you can't say that. I couldn't. And normally I've got a knack for figuring out who the person that's responsible for the chaos in films. And in this situation, even though I'd watched it years ago and this was a retrospect for me, wow, I was rather impressed. Alright, it is time to grade this film. Apart from the ending being a little lackluster and the werewolf going out like a punk within about a 2-minute, time span, I feel that this movie definitely hit the bullet points where it needed to be. Especially due to the fact, in a movie like this, when one of the main characters is a child, they say some things along the lines of ignorance is bliss, or children say the funniest things. And when you have a character that's a child who is starring in a film, especially in the horror genre, it's very easy to see said characters communicating with adults about something horrific that they have witnessed and not being believed. And it definitely brings a lot more terror to the viewer because we see it as well as this child does in the film, and you want to sit there just like shaking the adults, going, wake up, they're telling the truth. Because there are times, I'm sure that you as well as I have, when we were children, we saw some things that we didn't like, and we told our authority figures or parents, and they just looked at us going, oh, no, you're okay. And in a situation like this, it wasn't okay. Hence all the deaths and violence that the werewolf brought to the town. But yada yada yada. Grade-wise, I'm giving this one a solid A. Now, I was thinking about knocking it down a little bit further, but the more I think about the story, especially it being a short story from one of Stephen King's big novellas, I felt that I needed to give it a little more grace. Because in the past, I have dogged a lot of Stephen King films. And Stephen King is one of those horror authors that, yes, there are going to be times where content is going to be a little bit stale. And then, especially after decades of making, content for said genre. And this was kind of in the midpoint for him. And I feel that this movie needs a little more credit than it probably has been given. I've watched a couple other reviews, and it gets a lot of credit, but there are some people that have given it a pretty bad thumbs down. And I'm not going to say they're wrong. However, at the end of the day, some of these films do deserve a little bit more grace. I've been a little rough on some of them. So, solid A for Silver Bullet. Well, we hope you enjoyed this review. If you've seen this movie and you agree, leave a thumbs up. And if not, I understand. There is a comment section below, so if there's some things that you didn't like that I might have liked, just drop that comment in there. I'm really interested in seeing what all of you have to say about films in the horror genre, because I've spent a lot of time over the past, I want to say, 2 decades watching horror films and appreciating what they have to offer. Other than that, make sure you share on social media, but most importantly, you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for instant notifications. Until then, I'm Wildman Wes, and we will see you next time for day 17 of Shocktoberfest 80s Rewind. Take care, and as always, stay scared, kiddies.